thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at a heavily peated whiskey from Islay, the Port Charlotte 10-year-old 50% ABV. If you are a regular to my channel, you know how much I like the Islay whiskeys and the smoky whiskeys. This particular one from the Bruichladdich distillery is a peated version of their whiskey, because Bruichladdich doesn't always do peated whiskeys. If you're familiar with the normal Bruichladdich or of any of the Black Art series, you know they do an unpeated version, but they also do two peated versions. One is this Port Charlotte, and the other one is the famous Octomore. Now, Octomore is the most heavily peated whiskeys in the world. I brought you a few of those. We're going to bring you a few more of them. You know, their PPM levels are anywhere from, say, a low end of 88 to a high end of 200 or almost 300 ppm. So this isn't their super heavily peated. This is just their normal, regular peated whiskey, and they call this the Port Charlotte. As far as a ppm level, this is actually a ppm level, or parts per million, of 40, which puts it kind of right in the same range as your Ardbegs, your Lagavulins, your Laphroaigs. This one, however, or at least this 10-year-old, however, is at a higher ABV than Laphroaig and Ardbeg. Their 10-year-olds are 43%, at least in the States, are 43% being Laphroaig and 46% being the Ardbeg 10. So this is offering us a higher ABV than those other two. It also comes at a little bit higher price than the other two do. This is about a $65 bottle here in Columbus, where Ardbeg and Laphroaig are usually just under 50 bucks. So a little bit of a step up as far as price, but natural color, unchill filtered, which Ardbeg is also natural color and unchill filtered, but Laphroaig is colored. But you know, my main point in saying that is they're doing a lot of things right. I don't like my whiskey chill filtered, or at least prefer it not to be, and I prefer my whiskey not to be colored. Since it is not colored, let me show you this nice, lovely, rich color. I would say this is maybe gold -1 as far as the color on here. The cask maturation on this was both first and second fill ex-bourbon cask from America, and then also second fill French oak cask that previously held some type of fortified wine. So you're gonna have a little bit of that wine sweetness, and then also some nice casks from America. But basically, the American casks are first and second fill, where the French cask that previously held some type of a wine is a second fill. So very fresh cask as far as what they're using. Again, 10-year-old, 50% ABV. Let's get into this Port Charlotte. Again, if this is your first time to my channel, know that I love Islay whiskeys in general. I especially love peated whiskeys. Love all whiskeys, but they're pretty much my favorite. All right, so let's talk about the nose a little bit. I mean, you're getting that big 10-year-old peated whiskey punch, you know, in the same vein as Ardbeg or Laphroaig, but just in a different way. It's still just jumping out of the glass as far as the smoke. But the smoke is, it feels lighter than, say, an Ardbeg or Laphroaig, or it feels easier on the nose, at least to initially take it in. It's a little bit more barley rich, I would say. It has a nice sweetness to it. It's almost like an Ardbeg sweetness. If you've already had your dram of Ardbeg 10 and then you kind of left it sitting out overnight, and you can smell after everything's evaporated, but the glass isn't clean, that sweetness, it reminds me a lot of that. A little bit of ginger. And a lovely, lovely, nice mint note to it. It reminds me in some ways of a Lagavulin 12-year-old in regards to that mint note. It's just like a lovely green mint, intermingled with that rich barley note, because you know, if you're a friend of Bruichladdich, or if you're I'm thinking friends of Laphroaig, if you're a fan of Bruichladdich, you know they put a lot into their whiskeys. You know, the Octomores, they give you a ton of disclosure as far as what's in it, but you know, they do a lot of their sourcing of the barley there locally. I'm not sure if this has any of their local sourced barley, but I gotta say, it is so barley rich compared to the other ones. And that's just because the smoke is different. The smoke is still strong, but it allows other things to come into the room, if that makes any sense. You know, with Laphroaig, it's overpowering. You know that medicinal iodine type smoke. Laphroaig has a very distinct smell to it. You know, where on their 10-year-old you get, 4 or 5 really nice flavors, but it's kind of 3 or 4 dimensional, if that makes sense. But this one here, this smoke is open enough to allow some other flavors to kind of creep in, and one of those things is the barley. I gotta tell you, whenever I smell barley in a whiskey, or I smell a barley richness in a whiskey, I know that the craftsmen that put that whiskey together really cared and loved, what they were doing. And this is no exception. Like with everything from that distillery, I can tell it's incredible quality. They went out of their way to use incredible casks. If there was a bad cask, they're not trying to hide it, in any type of bottling. They'd probably just get rid of them if they even have bad casks. I mean, it's just so rich, so sweet. There's mint, there's seaweed, there's an orange citrus zestiness. And almost like not almost, there's a ginger note to this as well. I'm a big fan of sushi. As I'm recording this is late April 2020, so if years from now, as you were watching this video, you didn't know the coronavirus was big here in the States at this particular time, know that that's what's currently going on with us right now. And, there are plenty of things I miss. One of them is taking out one of my good customers to a sushi place that we usually ate at every Wednesday. Me and 2 guys from one of the companies that I service packaging materials to, we all 3 love sushi. We get together. So Tim and Paul, if you're watching this, I'm talking about you 2 guys. And I usually take the other 2 guys ginger because they're not a huge fan of the ginger. They just like a little bit of that tang from the wasabi. But I love ginger. And I just drench it all over my sashimi. Whether I'm getting crab or whether I'm getting tuna or salmon, I like a big piece of ginger over that whole thing, a little dab of wasabi, and that's how I prefer my sushi. So anytime I pick up ginger in a whiskey, it always takes me back to sushi for whatever reason. But with this particular one, it almost reminds me of, say, a Macallan 18 as far as the level of ginger. It's just really jumping out the glass on you. And mint. Almost a slight metallic note that sometimes I get in Ardbegs. Almost like a mineral note. Maybe, I'm sure it's from the fortified wine cask, the French oak cask, but there's a little bit of a grape note to it as well. Maybe a light custard. Excellent, excellent. First sip time. Sweet, sour, salty, big, bold flavor. It's 50% ABV. Where the smoke was more approachable on the nose, it's definitely more of a smack on the palate. Coating the sides of the tongue, apple, pineapple, sour apple, almost like a green tea note to it as well. It's salty, it's citrusy, it's bold, it's strong. It's just, it doesn't have the overwhelming distillery characteristic, again, like a Laphroaig or an Ardbeg, but it's still a big, bold flavor that leaves enough room to have its brothers and sisters and cousins kind of join the party with the sweet pineapple, citrus, sour, green tea, seaweed, ginger experience. Wow. Excellent, excellent whiskey. 10-year-old whiskeys, for pretty much, in my opinion, reserved for peated whiskeys. They really, give you a lot at that age, 10, 12 years old. Unless you're maybe getting a Balvenie or something that's a really high quality non-aged or non-peated whiskey. It's very hard to get this much drive out of such a young whiskey. But man, this absolutely delivers. And I had some hesitation paying this much for a 10-year-old whiskey. I hadn't had this before. I'm a fan of some of the private bottlings of Port Charlotte. I'm a fan of the Octomores, but when it came to this particular one and picking it up here locally, which we fortunately have plenty of them stocked here in Columbus, Ohio, you know, I thought, $65, you know, that's a lot for a 10-year-old peated whiskey, you know, but it is a higher ABV, so I decided to take a chance on it, and I've enjoyed it every step of the way. All right, so I've added a little bit of water to it, just a couple drops of my Fiji water. See what it's done to change the nose. Now, being that the smoke wasn't terribly overpowering, it doesn't change that aspect of it too much, but I will say the citrus comes out a little bit more with the water. The mint's still right there. And again, maybe a slight little mineral / metallic note is there as well. With water, like a little bit of custard comes out, a little bit of lemon custard. Not unlike the custard part of a creme brulee, like once you get past the sugary caramelized top of it. Grape skin. Squeezed pineapple, like pineapple juice. And maybe just a bit of sour apple. Those are all the things that are a little bit more prominent with a couple drops of water. As far as the taste with water, sweet, sour, vanilla now that I didn't really get on the palate initially. The smoke is so approachable. At 40 ppm and 50% ABV, it's really amazing how easy the smoke is to handle. You know, it's there, but you know, it's almost a component with a few drops of water on the palate. Oh, it's salty, green tea. Excellent whiskey. As far as the whiskey score on this one, I'm really impressed with this whiskey, but again, keep in mind what it is. It's a entry-level peated whiskey from the distillery, 10 years old, good 50% ABV, love all that. I would say it's a strong 88 out of 100 as far as a whiskey score. Nothing wrong with this whiskey. It's solid, it's dependable. I've been drinking on this thing for almost a year now, so I've worked it down pretty far. But it's been from the neck pour to this moment right now, extremely consistent, steady dram, which is something I appreciate as long as it starts out strong, and this one did. So again, that's where I'm at. I'm an 88 out of 100. Probably will pick up another bottle of this. I wouldn't mind having it, you know, on my whiskey bar on a regular occasion. I shared it with a few people who likes peated whiskeys. They thought it was light peat. It's definitely not that. It's 40 parts per million. So it's still a strong peat level. It's just done and integrated so well into other characteristics of this whiskey. It comes off as less peated than, say, its counterparts over at Lafroig or Ardbeg. Anyway, I definitely recommend if you have it in your area to pick it up. Tell me what you think of it. Incidentally, this particular one, I didn't notice this before. On the label said it was distilled in 2007 and bottled in 2018. So again, 10 years old, but at least that way you know what version of it that I have. Squatty bottle, different bottle. It's a little goofy comparatively to what I'm used to as far as a whiskey bottle. Almost feels like a gin bottle in a lot of ways. And it has this little dimple here at the bottom that once you kind of get down to the nitty gritty, like Ardbeg, you're gonna have less than what you think when you're polishing off the last 10-15% of this thing, so be warned. Bruichladdich is actually kind of funny about that. I don't care if it's the black art with the black bottles, or if it's this one with the dimple, you know, here at the bottom, or if it's the Octomores that are also, you know, black like the black art bottles. They really don't make it easy for you to realize you're down to your last couple drams. Maybe it's a gimmick. Maybe it's to get you to go in there and buy more. And I tell you what, it's worked. It has worked, Bruichladdich. So thank you for producing extremely good whiskeys, giving us all of this detail. I still really yet to be disappointed by one of the whiskeys from the distillery. Although some of the Octomores and Black Arts can get a little pricey, they're still very quality whiskeys. And would recommend them to anybody who wants to check out Islay or just check out a non-peated version of an Islay whiskey, that being the Scottish Barleys and the Black Arts. Anyway, I want to thank you for once again joining me for another whiskey review. Love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section if you've happened to have this one. And until next time, I wish you happy drinking. See you then.